Hey, what's happening? It's Scott Penfold, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And this week, it's a special one. It's a special 30-minute discussion between me and Bad Wolves guitar player Doc Coyle. Because when it comes to a guy like Doc, there's just so much to talk about. Of course, Bad Wolves have the new album out now, Dear Monsters. They're first with new lead singer Daniel Laskiewicz, also known as DL. The album was produced by Josh Gilbert, and it sounds great. But Doc also used to play in a metal band called God Forbid, when there's been a lot of talk of them maybe possibly coming back in the days ahead, so we'll be discussing that. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to Doc Coyle, so we'll get right down to it. A special edition of the Loaded Radio podcast with me and this gentleman here from Bad Wolves, Doc Coyle. Doc, how you doing, man?
Things are moving. We start this tour in like a week, and we're just grinding every day. It's like, feels like we're launching a space shuttle, what I imagine. the engineers there and there, making sure all the bolts are tight and all the wires go to the right places. It's a very kind of labored and meticulous process, but one I'm like kind of obsessed with, just going out and trying to launch this thing right,
Certainly, yeah. I mean, and to stay safe, obviously, too. I mean, which is still an ongoing thing. And do you find that there's still so much restriction when it comes to music and to going out on the road?
I mean, we have restrictions that have been given to us, kind of top down from the Papa Roach camp about a bunch of rules that we need to follow. And it's their tour. And, if someone gets sick, it can, this tour can lose tour dates, and that really affects everyone. And all of a sudden, if we're missing shows, budgets get screwed up. Maybe shows get canceled, fans lose out on seeing the band on a particular day. So it's, after not touring for 2 years, even though it's not optimal circumstances, we just have to kind of all band together and do what we have to do to just have the tour go through. And that requires some sacrifice, but that's okay. This won't be forever. This is a temporary situation, and we'll be fine.
Well, is this going to be your first run of dates with DL?
Yeah, this is, our first show of this tour is our first show with DL. That's
cool. So I guess that's kind of cool, eh? I mean, I kind of hyped about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for him, man. This guy has worked so hard and stepping into a job that comes with a lot of pressure, comes with a lot of expectations. And he's taken every stride of it with complete class and with an absolutely just incredible attitude, man. He's such a positive person, and is happy to be here, is excited to be here. And to some degree, I think historically, the way I came up, playing shows was what a band did. Records were great and doing all this other stuff was great, but that was like day to day. That was your job as being in a band. So it's weird to like make a record and do all the social media stuff and record music videos and take photos, but then not have shows to go along with it. And to be able to kind of make that final connection between creating music, people connecting to it on their own, and then seeing them, face to face, and seeing how that music impacts them, I think it's really the final piece of the puzzle of kind of making this journey with DL complete.
Yeah, and I spoke to DL probably about just a little over a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, and he seems like such a down-to-earth guy, such a solid dude. And then when I listened to the album, I was just like, holy shit. I knew even stuff from the Acacia Strain, but the guy's got pipes, man. Like, how did he get the gig? I know you guys worked with him before, but like, was it just sort of like, I know his side of the story, but I wanted to hear your side of the story about how he stepped into the gig.
I'll be honest, it is extremely peculiar given his background. But essentially, when Bad Wolves launched, he had been on. I have my own podcast called The X-Man, and he had been a guest on there because we toured going back to 2007, and we had been friends since 2004. And I was a fan of the Acacia Strain, and we were just mutual homies. And he had reached out when Bad Wolves took off and just voiced how much of a fan he was, and kind of suggested that if he could join as a third guitar player because he loved the music so much. So his kind of enthusiasm about what we were doing was apparent from day one. And amongst that, we would just chat, and he sent me this cover song of him singing, and he did all the music too for a Seven Dust song called Skeleton Song.
Right.
And it sounded amazing. I was like, what the hell? Where like it was kind of completely left field. And, you know, I heard some of the stuff he did with this band Legend, and I really couldn't believe it. And then, you know, he worked on a song called The Consumerist, and wrote a hook for the chorus on that song. So I had an idea of what his capabilities were as a songwriter and singer. And then his name and kind of vibe was always in the back of my head. And when everything kind of went down, and by the way, our situation, it was very like, it moved very fast. It was like, all of a sudden it's like, we don't have a singer. So we had to kind of think on our feet. And me and John almost simultaneously were like, what about DL? And within 24 hours, he sent us a song, a Bad Wolves song with his vocals on it. And it was pretty much from that point, I remember just thinking, I'm like, just based on the recording, like it's very on brand, you know, like you listen to it, you still go, this is still Bad Wolves. And I think that's of course, anytime there's a member change like that, you have to figure out, right? Do you go out of the box? Do you change it up? Or do you go with someone that feels like it's in the vibe of what you're already doing, you know? And that was kind of the thing about him, was just when we listened to the songs, man, it sounded like Bad Wolves, you know?
Yeah. What really got me with him too is that your latest single, If Tomorrow Never Comes, when that hook hits, when that chorus comes in and he just jumps on it, it's just like, wow, shivers, man. The guy's got, again, incredible pipes. I never thought he had that. Man,
it's been really impressive because I was there in the studio, seeing him work. And like lately we've been doing, just hanging out and capturing little stuff of us just playing like acoustic in a room. Right. Yeah. And we'll just like, oh, let's try this out. I mean, something maybe he never sang even. Right. And just hearing him in the room without, no studio, no trickery. And you're just like, holy shit, man. He whatever it is, he has it. And it's and I sing in the band too. I do like vocal harmonies and things like that. So I have a sense of things, and just being there and seeing it in the flesh, I really feel like we're just scratching the surface, because he's been singing for a while, but not as his main gig. So I think the fact that he does it all the time now, and he's recording all the time, we're always doing stuff and working on music, and now that he's going to be on tour singing all the time, it's just I think what he's going to be able to do, and his kind of raw talent mixed with the fact that he is really a top level musician. I mean, this guy, he might be the best guitar player in the band. He might be the best drummer in the band. I'm not even joking, man. This, and he's a God level songwriter and producer as well. So to kind of infuse that kind of talent in the band is it's going to make us all better. It's going to make our jobs easier. And like I said, along with that, he's just so down to earth, so humble. And as you know, within the rock star industry, finding all those elements that work together and not have someone kind of let their talent get the best of them is not always the easiest combination to find. So we're extremely lucky.
Was anybody else even considered, even briefly?
Yeah, I mean, we had a fairly exhaustive search, even though we found him first. Yeah, we got, I'd say, at least a couple dozen submissions of people. We've essentially had like a 3-song list that we wanted people to sing to, of like old songs. We like, hey, go in the studio, record these 3 songs, just get a diverse collection, like a Killing Me Slowly kind of thing or whatever. Yeah, I think the 3 we had people do was the song Better Off This Way, cool, No Messiah, and then Learn to Live. Nice. We had people to do. And then so out of that, we saw in person 6 people, and then we had 3 people, including DL, do record a handful of new songs that are on the album, and out of that 3. So and it wasn't an easy decision. We had some really talented people, and each had things in their favor that were amazing, and it's actually pretty wonderful to go through this process and see how much talent there is out there. And there's people who tried out who might not even got in the room, who sounded amazing. They just, like, their tone wasn't right for the band, even though they were great singers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes they can do a great job. You're like, it just doesn't, it feels like a different band. And so that was one of the things. And I'm telling you, the real thing about DL, and this was something I didn't even realize till after the fact, that after we made the decision. And by the way, it was a unanimous decision amongst the band. And even the management also wanted us to choose DL, is his temperament. The guy kind of joined the band amidst a kind of, thunderstorm of online negativity.
Sure.
And you need a certain type of steady handedness and the ability to kind of deal with adversity.
Absolutely.
And he kind of had a unique temperament for that I think made him uniquely qualified for the position. And it doesn't mean he hasn't been affected by that, because I don't think there's until you've been part of kind of like, just that much negativity and being directed at you and how you kind of deal with that. Until you've been through that, you don't really know what that's like. Mm-hmm. But having been through that now, I understand that you go through a gauntlet, you figure it out, and it does affect you. But getting through that other end, where we are now, where it's like the record's out and we're getting ready to go on tour, and you could just focus on what your job is, which is make great music, put on a great show, connect with the fans, work hard, have fun. It's going to make all this other stuff that's finally coming to fruition. It's just going to, I think it's going to be really emotional, when we actually get up there and play that first show, because it's the culmination of a lot.
Certainly so. So is the gauntlet done? Is it behind you now? Is it all moving forward?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm sure, like, we're good friends, for example, with 3 Days Grace,
sure.
Who had their own member change, and and as soon as everything happened to us, those guys are almost like giving us advice on just how to handle things, and their advice is like, just focus on the positive, don't worry about the haters, and they go those people will never go away. They're like, no matter how long you're doing it, there's always going to be someone saying something. So you can't control it. All you can worry about is what you can control, which is the music you're making, the show you're putting on, whatever you're doing at a given moment. And you got to realize that a lot of that is just a distraction, right? Like ultimately we just happen to exist in this one period of time where this thing called the internet exists, and social media, where people have access to you in a way that wasn't really available previously. So you have to develop a certain type of thick skin that's unique to the era. And that's kind, it's just part of what it is. And I'm of the mind that, these things do make you stronger. These things do give you a kind of extra layer of toughness,
sure.
and listen, I've been, whether it's creating music or writing or doing my podcast, I've been getting criticized for like 20 years publicly. So I had pretty thick skin coming into this. And this is, of course, a completely new wrinkle, but I don't know, man. I think life, man, it's supposed to be challenging, right? I've never, I think when things are too easy, it's like, it's just enough time. It's just a matter of time before the other shoe drops, right? And we're presented with challenges, be that health problems or, losing family members or natural disasters or economic collapse or whatever. Yeah. I mean, we could probably think of all the things that are happening globally right now that we can, if you were living in the wrong place at the wrong time, that you have a certain set of challenges that you have to kind of deal with. So ultimately in life, we're all going to have our gauntlets, right? And that's what's going to define you by how you deal with that, how you deal with adversity, how you kind of, find out who you are under those circumstances and kind of not crumbling or giving into your worst inhibitions during those times.
Get back to some of your previous albums. Nations is one I wanted to talk about. How involved was DL in the creation of Nations? I mean, even before he was a member of the band.
He just wrote one chorus. That was it.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing he's done previous to this record.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Now, when it comes to the Bad Wolves documentary, is that still something that's in the works?
Well, funny you bring that up. That wasn't really my idea. It's kind of dubious how that was put together. I'll put it that way. I'll tell you, there is a documentary that exists, and I had really no say in its editing or completion or release, so I can't really speak to that. But there's a documentary out there.
So is it like an unofficial documentary at this point, kind of a thing?
No, I just, truth be told, I'm probably not the best person to speak on it because I wasn't a part of the creative endeavor, really.
Gotcha.
Outside of filming my interviews and things like that. So, but I can say it was not my idea. I wasn't really for the launch of it and how it came out. It wasn't my idea. So, and I wasn't part of the execution of it, of fulfilling it. So, it's a weird thing. But there is a documentary out there. Apparently, I was, my role in the band has evolved quite a bit.
Yes.
Since things have happened, and there was a long period of time where a lot of us were not really included in a lot of these processes, and thankfully that's changed quite a bit, and now we're all involved a lot more and have a say and can kind of speak to the overall presentation of how we regard all these different facets of the band.
Now, the band is actually a metal supergroup of sorts. I mean, just looking at the lineup and the band you guys all came from, how did you guys all come together? Like, was it all through John?
I mean, essentially, because it's kind of a twist of fate in that I moved to Los Angeles in 2014. I had quit my old band, God forbid, about a year before that.
Yep.
And I bought this car and it broke down twice. The transmission broke down and I was stuck in Denver. I'm trying to move to California.
Yeah.
And I came with this idea. I was like, oh, maybe some bands are driving through and they're like going west and I could just hitch a ride. And the band that I found was doing that was Devil Driver.
Oh, cool.
So I hopped on their bus for a couple of days, ended up playing a song with them on stage and then met, and their guitar tech at the time is this guy, Max Karen, who was the guy that John started Bad Wolves with. It wasn't called Bad Wolves at the time. And right when he moved, right when I moved to LA, he was like, yeah, I'm quitting Devil Driver and I'm working on this music. And he would show me all this crazy music he was working on that him and Max were working on. And he asked me to join pretty much right when I moved. And at the time I had a band going called Vegas Nerve, which was a bit more kind of progressive rock. Like just coming out of God forbid, I didn't want to jump into something that was super heavy. And you got to keep in mind at this time, this is before the band had like radio rock songs. Like it was just all heavy. Yeah. Insane music. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm ready for that. So I was kind of just doing my own thing. I was playing with some bands, touring with some bands. And then in 2015, or was it 2016? 2016. Or it might have been 2015. See, all this stuff just
yeah, I know, especially the last few years.
One of those years, I just got off tour with this band, Mates Hall, and that band lost its singer and think nothing was really happening. So all of a sudden I had time, and then Max left Bad Wolves because he didn't want to tour, and he's a guitar tech. He wanted to focus on that, and he also joined this band Once Human. So he got really busy, and he was still going to like help the band write and record, but he didn't want to like be in the band full time. So a slot opened up, and Chris was already in the band, our other guitar player, but he was off touring and stuff. He wasn't really around. And then right around this time, Tommy had joined up, and those songs that I heard from a year earlier had really gotten a lot more condensed and focused. And with Tommy's vocals, man, it just sounded like something I'd never heard. It was really unique, and that struck me. And then on top of that, John asked me again to be in the band, and I kind of was like, I was really actually intimidated by the guitar style. It was a bit out of my kind of traditional box. Okay. So it was very challenging just to like step up and learn that stuff and figure out what the hell I was doing. There was definitely a steep learning curve for about 6 months there. And so it was the four of us. And then we were looking for a bass player. We held some auditions, and then we were shooting the music video for Learn to Live. And Kyle called me, and he was playing in a band called Vimic at the time. And I guess the band was kind of like on hiatus or not really doing anything. And he's like, do you know anyone that's looking for a bass player? And I go, well, it's funny you ask. We're actually shooting a music video today. He's like, you want to come down and be in the music video? So the first, so he actually, like, I sent him the song. He never even heard the music until I sent him that song, and he drove over from work, and we took a photo that day. And it's like the first full band photo ever was that day. So that's how the five guys came together. Yeah.
We've been talking about God Forbid. I got to ask, only because I was a fan, is there a status of God Forbid? I know because there's been some talk recently. Is there a status of anything?
I mean, the status is that, four of us have been talking. It's interesting. It's kind of like there wasn't really any buzz on God Forbid for a while, and outside I've had all the members on my podcast, and I would reconnect with the guys. And Byron, for example, had moved to El Paso, and, Bad Wolves would come through town, and Byron would come out, and we'd hang out and reconnect. And so, like, for us, the status was kind of just making sure the relationships were solid, because, with God Forbid, it's more of a family, than it is even a band, right? Like our connection and bond goes beyond just the music we made. And that was really important to me, just making sure everyone was like connecting on that level. So, and then sometime within that, there was just seemed like there was a lot of interest online in the band and in the comment sections, and all of a sudden some offers started coming in and things like that. So I can say that things are in the works.
That's awesome news, dude.
And definitely some things are happening. It's just a matter of when we can find something that fits for the band. But some things are happening, and it's very cool. And it'll be whenever it does happen, I think it's going to be really fun, because that was our first love, so to speak, musically. And it's something that's, very entrenched in my DNA as a musician, as a guitar player, as a writer. And it's cool that, you have something, it's been 9 years since we've played a show, and the fact that there's renewed interest or people that still have a connection to that material, it's like pretty damn cool.
Does that surprise you? Does it actually surprise you?
I mean, the end of the band was fairly unceremonious. We had put a record out in 2012, and we're in this like kind of rebuilding phase, and a lot of those, the last tour we did was with Shadows Fall. And, they weren't huge shows. There were a handful of like decent shows on the tour, but it wasn't, like we were knocking the doors off the place, so to have that sometimes, as I say, distance makes the heart grow fonder. So perhaps having that absence makes people appreciate what you do even more. So we'll see. And just having any of that enthusiasm, and having you not exist makes people appreciate that more. So we'll see how it goes, but listen, as long as we're having fun with it and people are enjoying the music, I think that's all that really matters.
Right on, man. I wanted to ask you just your feelings in how you look at the passing of Dolores O'Riardan when she was literally in the midst of working with you guys on Zombie. What are your feelings and what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
I mean, it was so many mixed emotions, because on one hand, you have this new band that you're investing all your time and energy into, and you're ambitious and you want good things to happen. But at the same time, I think there's this hesitancy to exploit a tragedy, sure. for so you can kind of get out there more. And so it was everything around that. And keep in mind, I had, kind of almost speaking to the documentary thing, I wasn't at the forefront of the decisions being made. Even the fact that she was recording the song, I had heard maybe she was going to do something, but I didn't even know that was happening. So I kind of learned the news that she had passed away while she was supposed to be recording the song at the same time the public did,
right.
So it was this weird thing of kind of being on the outside looking in with some of the kind of machinations of what was going on with the band. And then when it was decided to release the song, but then give the money to her family, that felt right. It felt like, okay, here's a way to kind of cover all the bases and kind of move forward this ethically, and the truth is in that, and it's something that you could, I think you can see it when you watch like the music video, because like the day that we shot that, it was heavy, right? Like sure. This weird thing, like the song, is about, these political uprisings, and things that were going on in Ireland, and then recording the song or doing the video, playing it live, it kind of became this anthem about loss, in general. And so like we played the song live and people are crying and it became this whole other thing. But I would go out of my way while we were shooting the video, while we were playing it live, especially that first like 6 months. And I was just thinking about her there, while I was up there, and I just try and not lose the plot on that. It's gotcha. Like, I didn't know her personally, but we got to meet her family in New York, and present them with the check, and just kind of having that moment was really powerful. And I don't know, it's a lot of it's heavy, man, and there's no way to look at that cleanly, right? And just go, oh, we had a hit song and everything was great, we're high-fiving. No, there's a lot of baggage with that. And that's and I think it's fundamental to have conscientiousness around things like that, and understand that it's, these things they're bigger. It's bigger than me, right? And you have to kind of like accept that responsibility of handling something like that with care, and understand the fragility and the sensitivity of it. And so that's just something I just want to be mindful of and be respectful of everything around that. So it's definitely not simple, Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys certainly did as well too, man. Doc, again, thanks so much, man. It's great. I can't wait to see you guys out there on the road.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the support. I just, thankful to have the opportunity to, do what we do for a living, man. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's been a lot of ups and downs. So the fact that any radio station is supporting what I do or the guys in the band do is just an absolute blessing. So thank you for your support.
Anytime, Doc. We'll see you out there on the road soon, buddy.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Again, the name of the album is Dear Monsters. It's the new one from Bad Wolves, and a strong release from beginning to end. Definitely worth a listen to if you haven't checked it out yet, honestly. And it's really excited for what Bad Wolves have in the future. And of course, and God forbid, apparently too, right? So fingers crossed, we'll see what happens there. As always, don't forget, check out loadedradio.com for all your hard rock and metal news on a continuous basis, 24/7. It's updated. If it's happening in hard rock and metal, it'll be up there at loadedradio.com. Also, you can download the Loaded Radio app wherever you get your apps, or at loadedradio.com to give you access to the 24-hour radio station, all that hard rock and metal news, our podcasts, and so much more. My name is Scott Penfold, and we'll talk to you again next week right here on an all-new edition of Loaded Radio Podcast.
Loaded Radio.